and welcome to the SmackDown Preview Podcast. I'm Adam Wilbourn from WhatCulture, joined by the Dadley Boyz of WhatCulture, Michael Hamflett and Michael Sidgwick, here to preview tonight's episode of SmackDown Live. But before we get into it, if you're a fan of this sort of thing, make sure you subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast from, for daily wrestling podcasts where we review Raw, SmackDown, the Wednesday night war between NXT and AEW, pay-per-views, we have interviews, roundtable discussions, and a roundup of the week, complete with a bloody good quiz, of course, on WrestleCulture. But gents, of course, tonight is the season finale of SmackDown Live on USA, at least.
I mean, it kind of works for SmackDown, but I hate it when they do it for Raw.
Yeah.
Like, there's enough bollocks in the company. Why make up an arbitrary season finale? It's just why.
How can you have a season premiere and a season finale for the longest running weekly episodic TV show in history?
They brag about it. It's like, there's no off-season in WWE. What, apart from the 6 days between your finale and your new series?
But yeah, how are you feeling ahead of it and ahead of the subsequent launch on Fox?
Honestly, I'm going to miss SmackDown Live. I'm going to miss Tuesday SmackDown. I like my wrestling sort of bottled up into the start of the week. As a parent, Friday night SmackDown on a Saturday morning is going to be incredibly difficult to watch. So selfishly, I'm going to miss this era of SmackDown. I think it reflects it returning to the SmackDown that people loved in the original brand split. It's been generally quite a good show, save for a slightly dodgy period in 2017, I think it was.
Slightly dodgy.
Yeah. Shane McMahon hasn't been always as overbearing as he could have been. I think this has generally been quite a nice run for SmackDown. And I'm excited for the first 6 weeks of SmackDown on Fox, when WWE are excited for the first 6 weeks. I do worry that eventually it'll kind of fade back into the obscurity it found the last time it was on Fridays.
I think it'll be remembered fondly, this era of SmackDown, particularly because it was so distinct to Raw. And if they are apparently trying to do this again, then maybe we'll get some better episodes of SmackDown than we've seen of late. Because this whole Roman Reigns storyline, which we'll get to, has torpedoed my interest in the show. But yeah, as a general thing of SmackDown Live as a concept, I'll remember it as the show on which Dolph Ziggler and The Miz had one of the best mid-card feuds ever, somehow. Thought it was absolutely fantastic. That's my abiding memory of it, The Ellsworth stuff, some of it was quite good.
Vindication for the Usos, and that sounds flippant, but I really mean
Hey,
that.
Hey, Charlotte. I'm going to make you look like Wilbourn. I'm going to dye my hair ginger or something like that.
It's going to be weird as well going forward, not to get too bogged down in this. We will talk about tonight's episode.
Leave the memories alone.
It is going to be weird that SmackDown, is going to be the A show, isn't it, going forward? They've basically said that.
They did this. They had it like that once before. When it first launched, it was obviously, it was a huge priority that had to work and had to be successful and be justified and all that. And then when they had the original brand extension, they were saying, well, we'll put Austin on Raw and we'll put The Rock on SmackDown. And the network's like, oh, brilliant, great. They didn't tell anyone The Rock was going to Hollywood that summer. So, we could have a similar situation like that with Brock. It's like, you've got Brock, it's going to be fine after WrestleMania. Yeah, see you, Brock, like that. So it could very quickly, Vince never falls out of love with Raw, does he? Regardless of how bad Raw gets, and often Raw gets really, really bad, it's evident through the broadcast how much Vince just adores it, sees it as his great creation of how he's reshaped live television, all that sort of stuff. And I think we've just got to enjoy the novelty period for SmackDown on Fox, because it'll be a matter of time before Raw's rating gets him in a bit of bother with USA, and he's like, Roman, do you want to come back to Mondays? I think this is as exciting as it feels right now. I do worry that it'll be back out on an island again on Fridays within maybe a year's time.
It's a bit of a surreal preview, this as well, because the most stuff that have been teasing has been for next week's episode of SmackDown, of course, so the first one on Fox. But one thing we do know is going to go down tonight is Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns face-to-face. And having thought we had it all figured out and where they were going to go, and they could still go this direction, to be fair, with the whole Roman Reigns whodunit thing with Rowan and now Harper and Daniel Bryan being involved in it all. Could we, in theory, going forward, see a team of Roman Reigns and Daniel Bryan together?
At this point, I kind of hope so. I think it'd be good. I'm repping Daniel Bryan with this oversized cardigan today. The good thing about this angle tonight is that somehow they've conspired, after one of the worst big summer storylines they've ever done, in my opinion, to have arrived at a point at which there are various possibilities they could go. All of them are quite good. and only one of them is totally nonsensical. But even the nonsensical one, i.e. Daniel Bryan forms his new cult, would still just be like very interesting and like worthwhile potentially in the narrative going forward. So yeah, I'm hyped for this.
It would be akin to the whole Bully Ray Aces and Eights thing, which I've been watching some stuff about recently, when he was like, I kept getting beaten up, kept getting beaten up, kept getting beaten up. Surprise, I'm the leader of the group.
Let me explain it in 12 video packages on next week's Impact. I like these two as a team, even if it's just for a one-off. I like how the match plays out in my head if Bryan's not the heel. It's going to feel a little bit stupid if and when he turns. It's like, well, I took them bumps to prove that could be this great leader. But I think the match feels big. Like the Bludgeons versus, don't call them that, versus Roman and Daniel Bryan feels big, doesn't it? It feels.
I'm surprised you haven't came up with a name for them yet.
You're
expert of puns.
Leave that with us. I'll try and come up with something in time for next week's SmackDown.
Oh, you're on the spot now.
Oh, I've got no chance on the spot. Yeah.
I think you're right. I think in terms of looking back on the storyline, it's not been great, if that's the understatement. But a bit like when you were talking about if it was going to lead to Bryan and Roman facing off against each other, the ends could justify the means if we get that tag match with Rowan and Harper teaming up against this unlikely duo of Roman Reigns and Daniel Bryan, which we've seen with the Graveyard Dogs can work to great effect.
Absolutely, huge fan of the Graveyard Dogs. Does that count as wedging them into this podcast or not?
Yeah,
that was you, really.
I think they would make a phenomenal team, and I think it would be an amazing arc for Daniel Bryan. Like that would be his babyface turn complete.
Yeah, I guess so. He's coming from a place of like decent values, which could act as a decent foundation for a babyface turn. Not that Daniel Bryan isn't such a great performer that they could just say, oh, he's a babyface and he'll just win people over like that. But he's had his values betrayed by a trusted friend, and now he's upset, and he's maybe going to discover that actually, if he's taken on these values to this gruesome extreme, maybe they weren't holding so dear in the first place, and maybe this is all a bunch of bollocks headcanon that I'm just spewing out, and they won't think about it close to this depth. But Daniel Bryan is absolutely ace at everything, and I think part of the reason the storyline has been so ass is because he hasn't been involved in it much. So just get him as the focal point, and great things will happen. He could justify it tonight. He's that good a promo, so I'm interested in seeing where it goes, regardless of where it does.
I'm itching for another in-ring banger for Roman Reigns as well. I thought the Rowan match was really good at the last pay-per-view, but it was a brawl, really, wasn't it? It was a bells and whistles thing to protect Rowan's limitations. And
he went 18 minutes, so that didn't work.
Roman's got these matches in him. He's really exciting. He can be so explosive on a hot tag, something like that.
That's how he built his career?
Yeah. I think like that kind of match for Roman is a little bit overdue this year. There's not been enough of those, and I'd like to see another one of them.
Let's switch over to the team they could be facing off against, Rowan and Harper. A lot of talk, obviously, at the moment about Luke Harper's contract situation, but putting that to one side, what do you think their future holds for the two of them? Because they've worked wonders with this storyline.
I mean, I wonder if Rowan's kind of nudging Luke Harper to stop going on Instagram or Twitter and just muddying the waters of whether or not this is an actual reunion between the two parties, or he's still pretty pissed with WWE. It's not.
He's working.
I think he's working, but obviously,
he's doing the exact same thing that Rowan's been doing in storylines, been complaining about being overlooked and controlled. It might be a sophisticated work because he implied that his mate has been robbed of a design or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, probably that ill-advised, but I think it's a work.
I hope so, because last week I was filled with optimism that Harper was making the right choice for himself, because I do still believe WWE is the place for him if Vince can get out of his head all those things that annoyed him about him in the first place. It was great to see Harper come back, and I actually think Rowan speaks to Bryan's ability again. It always turns into a Daniel Bryan circle jerk, but what he's done for
If
Rowan,
only he was here.
what he's done for Rowan in 6 months is this kind of old school making of a wrestler by being on a tag team. It's a Bret Hart and Jim Neidhart type thing, where immediately he feels
Same colour beard.
more relevant as a performer, better in the ring. He was protected because Bryan always took the pins. So bringing them two back together with Rowan, probably double the wrestler he was this time last year, they weren't that bad to begin with, were they? So I'd happily have them back as a main tag team force on this new Fox SmackDown again, like regardless of how this turns out with Bryan and Rowan.
Not to extrapolate too far, but if we could get it to the point where we had, and this is way, tag team titles, etc., and this is far too close probably for WWE, but who knows? If you had a situation where at Survivor Series you had The Fiend versus Brock Lesnar, and the Viking Raiders versus Rowan and Harper, they'd tear the house down.
Big, massive lads killing each other. I'd be bang up for that, actually. Yeah, really good.
Again, always makes me think of being in Gorilla, Vincent McMahon seeing those 4 guys, and then seeing the Revival with the belts, and thinking,
Switcheroo on the Raw before.
We also confirmed tonight have a match teaming Charlotte Flair and Carmella against Bayley and Sasha Banks. What do you make of what they're doing with Bayley and Sasha Banks at the moment? And also, what do you think of Carmella being introduced into this 4 horsewomen dynamic?
I'm not particularly happy with the direction Bayley and Sasha Banks is going as a double act, if I'm being perfectly honest. This is one of the few things I'm not really looking forward to tonight, even though out of morbid interest, I'm looking forward to how they do the Kevin Owens thing, which we'll get to. I'm actually earnestly very excited about the Roman Reigns-Daniel Bryan confrontation. But this Bayley and Sasha Banks stuff, like Bayley's turned heel like that. She's doing all the tropes like that. She's winning effectively Divas matches in 4 minutes. It's just not working for me. That it's not progressive. It's not women's revolution stuff. That would never have happened in a WWE or Universal title match. Sasha Banks, as we discussed on the Raw Review podcast, going 15 minutes with Nikki Cross. She's never felt more normal since her return as of last night as she did for me. So I've got little interest in where this goes, if I'm being perfectly honest.
I like what they've been doing with Bayley.
Yeah, I totally disagree. I've enjoyed Bayley's turn. I don't think it's been a finger click only because it's Sasha Banks. If it had been anybody else, if it had been an Alexa Bliss or Tamina, where she's now just a baddie because she hangs around with baddies, that'd be one thing. But I feel like she's doing everything out of loyalty, and she's numbing herself to a sort of a new evil axe. I know that was a very divisive finish, divisive match they booked with Clash of Champions with Charlotte. I was looking more forward to this, but I can't help feeling now it'll be disrupted by the rest of the women's division chasing Carmella for the title.
This was the thing I was going to lead to. The Carmella thing, when we spoke about it on the SmackDown review last week, we said, Carmella is a good hand now. She can be introduced into this and not just feel like a bit part player, even though she kind of is, because you need to hold off to having on the whole Charlotte and Becky teaming up properly on a regular basis. We had that wonderful moment with them warming up backstage and just staring daggers at each other. So having Carmella introduced in this is a good thing, and I think they could do good stuff for Carmella to elevate her as well. Having said that, they cannot have this match or this feud be interfered with the 24/7 championship, and kind of feels like they've made a rod for their own back here.
I don't like the belt interfering with other matches because I don't like seeing some of the wrestlers chasing it while the other wrestlers get on with more important business. So there's going to be Charlotte, Bayley and Sasha at ringside not trying to chase that title.
Alexa was sort of
because it's a stupid goddamn waste of time, isn't it? So I don't mind it when it's on airport tarmac or in hotels or whatever. But when you put it near other wrestlers doing other things, it just highlights that everyone else chasing it is a complete loser compared to the other ones that I don't like.
I didn't need that highlighting to me. I didn't.
I think it's absolutely fine on its own terms in very, very small doses, but not in the context of another wrestling match.
I wanted to quickly give you a question. Looking on WWE.com ahead of this preview, and part of it has a video saying WWE 24/7 Championship Madness goes down in Honolulu, and they've been all over the globe recently. Who was the image in the center of the ring with the one hand on the belt? Which wrestler do you think it was? It was not a female wrestler, I'll give you that as a clue, and it wasn't R-Truth.
Titus O'Neil.
It wasn't Titus. This personifies your point exactly, though. I will tell you that. Pick any jobber.
Sidgwick goes full Partridge on the podcast for those not watching the video one with the shrug of all shrugs.
In a cardigan. Heath Slater?
EC3.
Oh, of course.
There you have it. But
he won it, didn't he?
Well, yeah. What was he, 4-time champion? I think someone said.
Who gives a shit?
Raise a red cup to that man. He was once over on Twitter for 5 minutes.
But Carmella can do some good stuff involved in this.
I like Carmella. I liked her involvement last week. I think there's a good singles match and a good singles program with Bayley as well, which helps spin Bayley out of this current stuff with Sasha and Becky and Charlotte.
You should beat Charlotte on pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Back of the queue.
Doesn't want to fight her again. I think that's all.
I like that match.
I think it's a good way to dodge her. It is a good way.
Never have happened in a WWE or Universal title match. The next time Stephanie McMahon gives it the bigging about,
Mentioning
I'm not listening.
We should say happy birthday, Stephanie McMahon. It's her birthday today. you want to say it?
Happy birthday.
I'm not saying it.
Happy birthday.
Let's talk about her brother, though,
Happy
Shane McMahon. There's developments going to happen tonight with this Kevin Owens storyline. My question to you, and I don't want the flippant...
Sorry, I'm thinking of CM Punk singing Happy Birthday to Stephanie McMahon in that sinister way he did Rey Mysterio's kid that time.
I'm going to put a question to you now, and I do not want this flippant. They can't. It's done. I want your genuine attempt to try and salvage it. How did WWE salvage this Kevin Owens storyline?
Kevin Owens can just beat the piss out of him, like bloody his face, blacken his eye, and then go on then, fight back. Let's have a match. Let's just cut all the crap. I don't care about the lawsuit. It would never hold up in a real court of law because it's patently total bollocks, this entire storyline.
He's suing him for 20-odd million, and then if he wins, Shane
why don't
McMahon's fired.
they should just shoot brother? They say, obviously, like, they should just shoot brother to say, look, honestly, like, this has all been bollocks, hasn't it? You're not getting fired, I'm not getting sued. Let's just pretend that we've had a bad interaction backstage and we're just going to drop the pretense and let's just have a match and get it bloody over with.
It's awful, isn't it? Like, imagine Seth cowering in fear from The Fiend. Well, you're going to be hearing from my solicitors. Like, it's just an awful thing to introduce into a wrestling storyline when already there's enough.
That's what you would do if it was real life.
Don't even. Michael Sidgwick references somebody who got me who triggered me on Twitter by suggesting that this followed the logical path of where these characters would go in a pro wrestling show. Like, it's so stupid that what annoys me the most about this storyline is that they think through big cash figures that this is how we would relate to this story. This is how we understand where Kevin Owens is coming from, or we understand why Shane McMahon would feel threatened by the lawsuit, all that sort of garbage. You know, it's a wrestling feud. Let's have it end in a wrestling match. Like, I dare you to say, scrap all this and I'll see you at Hell in a Cell. Because that was surely the intended payoff all along. Why they stretched it out past SummerSlam, why they kept this thing alive when Owens had conclusively beaten McMahon and was ready to move forward on this like wave of genuine organic momentum that he built up. And they went back to it. Surely it was to get to Hell in a Cell.
Well, no, this is the thing. I think they were all right dragging it out to Hell in a Cell to a certain extent. If you could have had him involved, you know, I mentioned about Shane attempting to insert himself into King of the Ring way in advance of it actually happening. And instead of all this bollocks of, well, let's hope the referee does his job the right way, $100,000 fine because that humanizes Kevin Owens or whatever.
Apologise.
You just had Kevin Owens costing Shane McMahon in the semi-finals or whatever, whether that be as a referee or just as an interference in it. And Shane says, right, that's it. There's no new room for one of us in this company. We'll settle this inside Hell in a Cell. What is it, 2 years? Mm-hmm. 2 years on from their infamous match before. And Shane tries to kill himself in front of his kids again. And there's your match right there. But I just feel like there's been so many missteps that they've always taken the wrong option.
Yeah, of course they have. It's been a truly disastrous storyline. And that's not hyperbole either. They had a guy who... They were saying that on Raw Reunion, to cement the handover to the new Steve Austin, rebellious, funny, ass-kicking character that Kevin Owens was for about a week, that they should have a beer in the ring together. Mm. Can you imagine this version of Kevin Owens having a beer with Steve Austin? Steve Austin would stunner him.
Mm. Yeah. Just wouldn't have
and then he gets sued.
Steve Austin would stunner this guy for being such a geek and daring to share the same ring with him. You would have no respect for him whatsoever, and I've got no respect for him whatsoever. It's been a truly damaging storyline that they need to... I was being flippant with the just pretend it's been like a work all along, but that was my way of saying just retcon everything you've done with it. You've botched it completely. Kevin Owens somehow has got still a bit of currency with the audience. Make them believe in him.
I was going to say, if anyone can salvage this, it's Kevin Owens.
Well, that's us not being completely negative on this, is that last week, Owens still got some cheers. I don't think...
Because he's great.
Yeah, I don't think the electricity was there from when he was kind of reaching his peak in this version of the character. But it doesn't mean that most of it can't be retrieved. It just needs to happen really quickly and really, as Sidgwick says, really decisively as well. They've got... either next Friday's SmackDown or Sunday's Hell in a Cell.
Can you imagine the Fox debut having this crap on it?
Yeah, like exactly.
Be a disaster.
It doesn't need this like daft soapy stuff. It needs something really decisive in Owens' favour in front of a very big watching audience that might be taking his character for the first time.
Yeah, it strikes me that this show will arguably be used to, advance storylines to get people intrigued for the Fox show. Obviously, we've got Brock Lesnar's title match on there. I think the Bryan Reigns stuff is obviously going to continue forward. And I'm not saying they're going to finish up the Kevin Owens Shane McMahon story, but they are going to tidy it up, I think, and cut off, tie off any loose ends, and then hopefully just have it ready to go. The first Friday night SmackDown, big, whether or not Kevin Owens takes out 20 members of security that's part of Shane McMahon's entourage or whatever, and then, a stunner party effectively, and then that pushes towards the Sunday pay-per-view. I think this is just going to tidy it all up. Very quickly, final question. Obviously, last week we saw Brock Lesnar come down and attack Kofi Kingston and challenge him for the match next Friday on the first ever SmackDown on Fox. Do you think we have a little promo between Paul Heyman and Kofi Kingston tonight?
Yeah, probably. It's time to get the belt off Kofi. To the extent that I've got no interest in how the storyline builds, even for a 1 week build. It's just over for him. It really is.
I think Paul Heyman could be the guy to, at least if we are going to take the title off Kofi, give Kofi a bit of a rub tonight, for example, ahead of him dropping the title to Brock.
If anybody can do it, he can, I guess, but you'd have to work really hard. Really quite hard.
I think Kofi might physically attack Heyman tonight and then tell him that he's coming to Raw, because Brock's going to be on Raw next week. And I think we're going to get something akin to Kofi and Randy Orton's crowd brawl, where Kofi for a second is going to have a bit of agency in this feud with Brock Lesnar, just to even create the veneer of the chance he might win on Friday, which he won't, but I think that's what he'll do.
Right, this has been the SmackDown preview. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And you can subscribe to the podcast as well by searching for WhatCulture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from for daily wrestling podcasts. Plus, you can let us know your thoughts on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE. Whilst you're there, follow all three of us. You can follow Michael Hamflett at
Michael Hamflett.
Follow Michael Sidgwick at
Sidgwick.
And follow me at Adam Wilbourn. As I said, follow us all at WhatCulture WWE. Enjoy SmackDown Live tonight, the season finale episode, of course. And make sure you join us tomorrow for the SmackDown review, which will be released on WhatCulture.
Could you imagine if SmackDown was on Netflix and said, do you want to watch another SmackDown? No, I don't want to watch any more of this. It just keeps going and keeps going and keeps going.
Right, this has been the SmackDown preview. My thanks to the Dadley Boyz. Thank you for watching, and we will see you soon.